Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cryptic Humility. As always, I'm going to post the top 10 cryptocurrencies on the screen for you here for your review. The first topic that I want to talk about this week, which is quantum computers or quantum computing, something that we were meant to talk about on the podcast that we didn't get to yet. And there have been speculations and little birds in the community saying that there could be potential problems with Bitcoin moving forward if Bitcoin does not adapt its security measures or its cybersecurity towards fighting off quantum computers. So why that's a threat is quantum computing is a new set of computers, not like classical computers, but now modernized computers that can do calculations and solve calculations 10 times faster and 10 times easier. Why is this a problem for Bitcoin? Is because Bitcoin heavily relies on Bitcoin mining. So Bitcoin mining, the whole foundation of the decentralized verification on a blockchain, could be at threat if Bitcoin does not move forward to adjust to quantum computing. Basically, as we're growing technology-wise, computers are getting smarter. So if computers are getting smarter, and Bitcoin is one of those innovations, Bitcoin has to stay with computer innovation to make sure that it's not experiencing cyber hacks. Quantum computing can make it so much easier for forks to get people's key information. So it's really important that we pay attention to this issue in the community. And I'm sure people that are miners and people that participate in protocols there, the layer 2 of Bitcoin, is working towards solving this or considering this. The second thing I want to talk about is the company Bullish. Bullish is a digital asset exchange, and they just got their bit license from New York. Now, we also haven't talked about bit licenses on here, but it's basically just extra credibility for companies that are either storing crypto, trading crypto, lending crypto. It is really important for these kind of companies to get a bit license. It's issued by the New York Department of Financial Services, and this bit license program went back to 2015. This is when it originally started. So it's been around for a little bit of time, but I'm going to read to you guys which companies have it, and this is just a couple of them. BitPay, Coinbase, Robinhood Crypto, Fidelity Digital Asset Services, Gemini. These can also be called money transmitter licenses, and there's a bunch of other states that are considering them too, like Montana, California, New Jersey, Connecticut, and a couple others. Reading some of these stats from the New York Department of Financial Services. So I want to tell you guys that it can also be called a virtual currency business activity license. The license, established in 2015, requires stringent compliance with anti-money laundering, know your customer, capital, and cybersecurity standards to protect consumers and promote the legitimacy of these businesses. My favorite thing that we talk about on the podcast, which is eliminating all the fraud, scams, schemes, illegitimacies that happen in this market that prevent it from excelling, which, if it isn't obvious by now, I think that the crypto market is totally the future, and just not only crypto, but blockchain, fintech, all these new innovations. We're really trying to legitimize crypto, which means that these companies have to have compliance regulations. They have to go through audits. They have to be completely transparent in what they're doing now, especially with buying, selling, exchanging, storing crypto. Why is this great for Bullish? Because it's establishing legitimacy for them. To get your bit license is like a level up in the crypto society where you can truly be trusted for your service. And obviously this is going to open a world of opportunities for them because it's going to upgrade their status a little bit with their company. It's going to build customer trust with them. More customers are going to get involved with them because they know that company is regulated and thoroughly operating correctly, since we've seen so many scams and schemes in the space. And it's like we all have PTSD and we don't know like who to trust. As always, I'm going to post some links below, so if you guys are interested in learning about that, definitely do so. A last piece of news before we get into the guest speaker is I really wanted to talk about one of the companies that is moving on chain. And I know this one is a very obvious one, but it's just great to explain to people how this process works. And it's really not as complicated as people might think. But I want to talk about Amazon and how Amazon could potentially be moving to on chain and what that process is like. So we talked last week and we said that over 50 companies that I just posted on the screen. I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of more companies moving towards blockchain, but these top companies, and I'll put them up on the screen again, are moving to on-chain, tokenizing their assets, their real-world assets, and moving towards a more digitally focused world. So let's get into this. So I kind of wrote out some steps here of how Amazon would do this. The first thing they would have to do is understand why they need a blockchain. So we've gone over on the podcast, so you can have public blockchains, you can have private blockchains, you can kind of have like hybrid, which is like a little bit of both. Why this is so good for Amazon is because Amazon his whole company thrives off inventory. And obviously inventory can be really, really hard to track, especially as you're going through your profits and your cost of goods sold and all that stuff. So what's really cool is that Amazon's use case for blockchain is they need an easier way to be tracking their inventory, and they don't want to have to hire somebody to do it. They want to have this automated system that can keep kind of like a ledger. We know where we're going with this. Keep kind of like a ledger so they can track, oh, when Susan got X, Y, and Z and put it in the Amazon truck, and truck number 3457 got that Amazon order. This is what happened, and this is what happened. Nothing can be reverse duplicated. It's just so much easier to track inventory that way. I don't work at Amazon, so I'm not going to get into it. The second thing that they would have to do is pick a blockchain. So depending on what kind of company you are, obviously Amazon, their best bet would probably be getting their private blockchain, their own blockchain that is just worked on throughout the company. Only employees have access to it. I think obviously, they don't need a public blockchain for tracking inventory in the company. At Boston Blockchain Week, we just talked to David Hill, I believe, who is the VP of blockchain engineering at Fidelity. And what's really cool is you would just connect with somebody who is a blockchain engineer or somebody that's really familiar with smart contract programming, which we had somebody for smart contract programming on the podcast not too long ago. It's wildly easy. I wouldn't say to develop it, but to find somebody that can help you develop your blockchain. You get to set up all the smart contract programmings or protocols that you want. So just like how we gave an example of Susan, her product that she taped up and got ready, got shipped to this truck and it's recorded on the blockchain, smart contract can be programmed to say, okay, once this is landed to this person, this happens. So you can actually do special commands and special protocols, which the computer will act out for you at the time of that command. There are a lot of legal requirements and compliance requirements, and I'm not going to go into these so much because we just talked about having a bit license, and that's basically kind of what I'm going to talk over about. But the next step after you develop your blockchain, you develop your protocols, how the system's going to function, how it's going to run, the data that you really need there, and you have defined your use case for it. What if Amazon now accepts crypto as a payment? If Amazon now accepts crypto as a payment, let's say like 5 years down the line, a bit license would be a perfect example of providing legitimacy and protection within the crypto space. So those would be the first few couple steps that a company would actually take to legitimately get on chain. And this is a special use case, but for most companies and institutions, they probably will be using a private blockchain. It's very rare that they would want to use a public blockchain unless they were trying to involve the public very heavily in their sales and their revenue. So that is everything that I wanted to cover today. A little bit of news, a little bit of education. Of course, stay tuned on Twitter because I post a lot of news daily on Twitter as well, so you can check that out there. But let's get into speaking to our guest speaker this week. We're going to be collabing with somebody who is familiar with ghostwriting and just content writing in the space. Very, very insightful. A Bitcoin pioneer, I would say, knowing Bitcoin before I even knew anything with Bitcoin yet. So let's welcome him on. I am here with our guest, Daniel. Daniel, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. We are excited to hear about your history in crypto and everything that you're doing in the space now and all the insights that you have for us today to share. So I want to kick this off, as always, by asking about your background in the space and telling us, I know you have a story, but telling us about the story of how you evolved and got into the crypto space.
So kind of like everybody, they heard about Bitcoin in 2009, 2010 when all the drama was going on with Silk Road and all that. They might have heard, oh, this is something dangerous. I heard one of my friends was interacting with it, and I was like, okay, this sounds like some internet fake money, but will this be something? I didn't look into how it actually ran and how it actually worked in the background, what the blockchain was. I didn't even hear that word blockchain. I just heard the word cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And so I was like, this seems interesting. But it wasn't until about 2016, 2017. I know that everyone, I don't know, maybe got to experience the Equifax hack and the AT&T data breach, where pretty much, millions and millions of U.S. customers' data was out. And they gave me like $75, some class action lawsuit thing, like, here's $75. Just don't worry about it. It's okay that your data got there. And after that point, I started getting some things filled out in my name. I had to call all the credit unions and tell them this wasn't me. And I paid a lawyer to get it all off my credit, which they didn't do very well. And I ended up just had to call it and do it myself. So I just had a bad experience with and trying to understand more of centralized data storages and how these are so vulnerable. Right around that time, right around 2016, 17, I was actually watching Netflix, and a documentary called Banking on Bitcoin came on. And I said, okay, that's why it's so good for things like this, these education, because a lot of these people, you need full length content, at least, 30 minutes, an hour, not just some guy in there 15 minutes trying to sell you some scam. You need to listen to some full length content to really digest what's going on. I watched that documentary, Banking on Bitcoin. I send it to everyone. Now, this one in a TED Talk to try to teach everyone. And it wasn't just preaching about Bitcoin. It was kind of following the journey of certain people. One of them was the guy that created MT Gox and the exchange that got hacked, and a few other ones, followed a few other guys, real popular people. I think one is Andrew Antonopoulos. One is, we call him Bitcoin Jesus, Roger Ver, but he went off to Bitcoin Cash and stuff like that. And they follow these old crypto G guys, these old miners and stuff, and really break down. They even teach, talk to 5 and 6 year olds, and it's funny how the people that are like 8 years old at an elementary school are able to digest what Bitcoin is, what money is, because they understand just trading, time for value. Someone's not going to trade their cool Power Rangers blanket for your banana, right?
Well, if I can say, the future generation too are going to be so much more online than us, falling for all the AI videos, when I'm on TikTok and stuff. So I can't even imagine how I'm going to prep my own children for the world. Also, their adoption of Bitcoin and crypto should be far easier because we're paving the way with regulations and everything as well. And they're going to be a little more technologically advanced in AI already, since we're developing it pretty much for them. But let me ask you a question. So what was AT&T's involvement with this? Because I never heard of what happened.
It was a data breach. If you search right now, top data, where that means your full name, maybe your banking details, your emails, your phone number, your address, just everything that's about you, and people sell that information and they'll make identities on you. Now with AI, you have to be very, very, very careful on doing the big thing right now is doing face Zoom calls. And they'll take, when you talk and you interact, they'll take that and just put an AI voice on it. And because I can go right now on Midjourney and take this conversation right now and continue it on for 3 hours, continue it on about whatever. We've got to take their same voices, our same mannerisms, everything, and just talk about something totally different. And then I can have us go jump in a spaceship and fly to Mars, right? So you really think I can do it right now? It's so easy. And so that's why you have to be very careful now, because everything is like fake face recognition, or calling your bank, hey, say a phrase in your voice, or just looking at the person. You can just, if they do a video call with your phone company. And SIM swap was the very bad one, where people call your phone company acting like they're you, get your phone number details, get it all transferred over to their phone, so they can do anything they want with your phone number, and they think that it's you. Right. And now with AI, it's going to be really hard to identify people that are trying to be you. So just like if you're trying to call your bank, you need to confirm something. You're just like, okay, this is me. Da 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 da. There's major leaks during this time, and one of them was Equifax, and one of them was AT&T, and one of them was Yahoo. I got settlements from all three.
Wow.
All three. They were just like $50 to $150 checks in the mail. So,
yeah, nothing crazy.
No, I didn't cash them, because if you accept it, you're accepting, that you can't sue them in the future.
Cool. No, that'd be good. That'd be good for anybody that's listening to look into as well. And obviously, I got to do my background research too after the podcast. There's just been so many scams that have happened. It's like, how do you even keep track? Thankfully, we are moving towards more regulation. And I guess I'll ask you, do you think that we need to have regulation with AI? I mean, the answer seems pretty obvious. But what do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you definitely don't want to have that where regulation is stolen innovation, of course. You want to be innovative. Having that middle ground, I think the deep fake stuff is very important to regulate. I know in Asia, you get in big, big trouble for doing any type of deep fake stuff. And I don't know I guess the severity of the penalty is really what it all comes down to. And enforcing it. A lot of things, just like crypto tax and the crypto launching your own coins, just kind of how like Trump launched his own coin, right? His own meme coin.
Mhm.
They want to keep that area kind of gray so they can interact in this. People want more regulation because the more regulation that we have, the more clarity we have, the more companies can establish, okay, here's the rules we have. We can do this, and they can build and they can be prosperous. So yes, regulation is important because it brings clarity, right? But it's the enforcement of certain regulations. The ones that comes to my mind is the tax. There's a lot of people out there not paying their taxes. I'm a big advocate of paying your crypto taxes. They send you a form saying, hey, you did 120,000 transactions, give them 150,000 back.
Oh,
Because once you get over 100,000 transactions, that's when they start 1099 in you. I trust me, I know, because I do day trading and stuff like that, trading with
oh,
bots
cool.
and things like that. Always give them more information, more transactions back than they have for you. It's very important because I've taken crypto tax classes and they are keeping track of everything. It's very easy to follow everything. They're keeping track of and they're definitely going to come.
Yeah, no, no, 100%. Whether it's crypto or anything, you should absolutely be paying your taxes and tracking your taxes. And eventually soon,
Yeah,
hopefully on the, what'd you say?
I didn't want to get too far off the topic. I didn't
Oh,
want
no,
to.
no, they're literally, you're fine. We'll talk about any topic that's relevant, and this is
Mhm.
truly relevant. We haven't yet talked about taxes on the podcast. That's something that we were supposed to have a bookkeeper come on to explain all these things. They rescheduled, so I definitely need to follow up to
Mhm.
make sure that they'll come on to talk about these topics or some sort of education that I'll have to teach about just to keep people in the loop about how to
Mhm.
achieve this. But like, I think it's a little bit easier for people that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for people that are trading maybe potentially on Coinbase and like other established companies. I don't know if they have like systems in place where it's easier for you to track your taxes, but definitely,
Mhm.
definitely just steer clear of any trouble for you in the crypto space. No matter how much you're gaining, I would highly recommend, even just for yourself, keeping record of your financials and what's going out, what profits are you making. And I know actually we just covered on the last podcast episode that the IRS classifies crypto as property, so you are subject to capital gains and losses
Yes.
within your taxes. So that's another really good point to mention. But to keep us on track, let me
Mhm.
ask you, so obviously after all this happened, how did you end up in the crypto space?
So as soon as I watched that documentary, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to buy, and at that point, you got to remember, I'm scared to touch anything that's new. I'm scared to put my name, my ID, so if anything's asking me anything about give me your ID or whatever, I'm not doing it because a big thing about Coinbase is once you start interacting with them, they want your ID.
Right.
It used to be once you trade over $100, but now I think you can't trade anything at all. It's a Homeland Security protocol. So, and after a while, they want your social for IRS. They're not going to let you trade without your social and stuff. So at the very beginning, I got the Coinbase app. It was 2016, 17. At this time, I started watching documentaries, everything about it, and I learned about the hard fork, the Bitcoin hard fork, and Bitcoin Cash was going to be the result of that. And so if you held Bitcoin, once the hard fork happened, you pretty much got airdropped Bitcoin Cash, right? And so I was like, okay, I want these free tokens. The network's having this. This was back. Yeah, it seems like a long time ago, but it really wasn't that long. But it was an early and very important step in Bitcoin's life, and I'm happy we don't have these debates about hard forks and splitting the chain. I don't know if you want me to touch on that for one
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, and
So
actually, if you can you touch upon like airdropping as well? Because I know that's a very
Mhm.
popular term in crypto. Just for
Right.
beginners that are listening, go ahead, explain it.
Right. So what happened here with Bitcoin? The community had a debate on just because they don't want to be centralized. When you have centralized data storage, you have a lot of data stored in one big, huge terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of memory storage. Right. What makes a Bitcoin chain unique is it only stores, I think, around 6 megabytes of storage for like 10 minutes. So once
Right.
that 6 megabytes of storage is stored, it leaves and it's getting written down in a public ledger so everyone can read it. But there is a time in that transaction period, there is a vulnerability there because it is stored in a 6 megabyte block for about 10 minutes. Now, because of this, you can't store that many transactions in there. And that's why it costs like 30 cents to send a Bitcoin transaction. And on other blockchains, it may cost less than a penny because they've increased this block size to allow more transactions in. But people wanted to keep Bitcoin simple, kind of like a digital gold. They didn't want to make it real complicated where you build dApps on it, you build protocols on top of it. They wanted to keep it like a peer-to-peer digital cash. So simple is better. And the community, the one side community wanted to increase the block size to 100 megabytes. The other one wanted to keep it small. So they had what's called a hard fork. They took the code and they copied it into two. You have one chain, they copied it into two. So they're running parallel together, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, who wins this fork? Does the Bitcoin Core people with the small block size win it, and it carries the name Bitcoin, and it carries on, or does the Bitcoin Cash? Well, they had to change their name to Bitcoin Cash because they didn't win the battle, right? Or do these Bitcoin people with a larger block size win? That coin continues to live on. So if you bought Bitcoin at that time, you're going to get free Bitcoin. This is not an airdrop. An airdrop is where you get involved in a community and someone sends you tokens to your wallet, or it's hard coded into the things for when you're helping, you get free tokens. Like if you build a project and I'm an early user of your project before you launch a token, and then once you launch a token, hey, you are an early user of my product, here's some free tokens. That's an airdrop. And if you look in your wallet, if you hold Bitcoin and you look in your wallet and you've been an early holder, you could probably look in there and see that you have many other Bitcoin alternatives in your wallet. You're like, how did this get there? Is because somebody hard forked off the main chain. So I wanted to get this Bitcoin Cash, and I was like, okay, this is free money. I guess I'm going to take a risk and download this Coinbase app. I wanted to get in crypto to get away from centralization. Now here I am downloading this centralized app, putting my ID and everything. So I was like, I want to get away from this. So I started learning about decentralized wallets, decentralized exchanges, things that are getting away from permission and having an ID.
So where are you now in the space? What do you do now in the space?
So now I'm working as a kind of like a writer for newsletters and gurus and things like that.
No, you had wanted to talk about maybe some bad influences that you have experienced in the space, like things that you've seen. I know there's certain things you can't talk about because of NDAs and stuff, but like what, I think one of the things to start us off was that you wanted to talk about the bots or like bot interaction. So wherever, like whatever you want to say about that, definitely, because that's the whole point of the show, is to raise awareness about this kind of stuff.
I've worked with some pretty prominent, pretty well-known gurus and newsletters and tokens, and some of these guys that I've worked with have worked with U.S. presidents. Some of them were with big, large banks. I'm the CEO of I think it's what is that bank that collapsed in 2008? The Lehman Brothers. The youngest, one of them, he was the youngest CEO of the Lehman Brothers, or one of these major banks. They big names, people. One of them, he even says they say in Europe, they call him the most trusted person in crypto. They give themselves these titles, but the news reports it and everything. Like they start these titles, but they make it seem like other people give them these titles, right? The most trusted name in crypto, like da 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 da.
And that's the problem. That is the problem.
They
Yeah.
repeat it to themselves enough. The mainstream
that they
media
believe
picks
it.
up on
They believe it.
The guy was the youngest CEO of the largest bank, and so they pick up. And now I don't want to undermine the people that work for these newsletters and these companies. These analysts and these COOs, they are very, very smart. They are very talented, but they're just stuck in this yes man mindset where I'm at work. I need to do what I'm told to do because I'm at work, no matter how immoral it is, no matter what how it affects people. It's all about the bottom dollar and getting money for the company. It's not about building a real product or building it's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of manipulation. It's a lot of false promises, a lot of hot keywords. What's the think tanks on what's the main words that's going to attract? What's the buzzword? What's the buzz topic? It's a bunch of marketing, millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent into marketing, not really in nefarious marketing tactics like bot interactions. And you think this post here got 1 million views with 300 retweets and 300,000 retweets and everything. You look at it and it's 250,000 paid retweets, and they're pretty open about it. And then you find out how everyone is just patting each other's backs. They're just all these the real ones at the top. If you tried right now to ask them, hey, how much I want to come on your podcast and talk about my token, they're just going to ignore you, right? But if you come on there like a real company and you show like, okay, this is a legit company that has $500 million market cap, and they want blah blah, this very important person on X to do this show for me, every single one of them minimum is $50,000. Right?
That's crazy.
It's around like $15,000, and a lot of these big spaces where people just come up, and it seems like real organic. A lot of it's pre-recorded. You think this space is live. You think everything is live, but it's all pre-recorded. And there's so many of those that I myself thought were real and live. And then come to find out later it was pre-recorded. They just interact, like they'll interact with someone down in the stands that you think they're interacting with. They'll bring them up and everything, but all this is all pre-recorded. Right.
And what is this on? X or?
Every platform, X, YouTube, live webinars. They are so good actors, and they all have a script that they're going by, and you're thinking this is not a script at all, but it's 100% a script because I helped write them, because I ghostwrite, right? And you're watching this like, God, they're so good at acting because this looks so real, but they're so good at acting. They're so good at natural conversation, and they're just reading word for word, every single word off a script. They might at the end, of the paragraph go off and say a little bit on that paragraph. But as they're reading the paragraph, they're saying word for word what's going on.
And I think that we are especially in the crypto space, there's just such a rat race for everybody. Like, it's just like a fast market. And I'm speaking like more so in the influencer sense, which isn't always a positive. Everybody is, especially as a writer, maybe you can relate to the feeling, but just everybody is constantly trying to get the next thing out there, whether it's a meme coin or an altcoin or the news or, what you should buy. And crypto can also be a long-term investment. No financial advice on the podcast. That's at least what I try to open people's eyes to, is that there are multiple routes you can go in. You do not always have to go the influencer route with meme coins, with altcoins, going on pump.fun or any of this stuff. You can go in the direction of working with Fidelity and doing crypto IRAs because they offer those now, or looking into the SEC and doing your research, or talking to Daniel, because Daniel is very, very educated in the market since, way back when Bitcoin was just pretty much a concept, and you've seen all these things that have happened, all these scams, all these illegitimacies, and us evolve to this point. So I agree with you. I think that there is a lot of chaos and just noise out there that could also lead you wrong. So
yeah, it's about trying to build a good product with integrity organically and doing it successfully. There's like-minded people out there, and they want a safe journey and be a trusting way. But they for some reason they do not take the humble route. They want that quick fix, and those scam tactics work. Those bot interactions worked.
I just want to say the reason why, and we talk about it on the show, is because new people in the investing space want things that are sexy. That has been the 2025 word of the year for crypto is that people only want to invest if it's sexy, if it's fast, if it's alluring, if it's a get rich quick scheme. I don't want to speak on everybody in the crypto space because I have met so many great people just even coming on the show and talking to me and educating me even more about the market. We are facing a get rich quick mentality problem in the crypto space. And I think that that's leading a lot of people in the wrong direction. And it's also not giving the space the opportunity it really needs to thrive. So is there anything else? Like, I know you've worked with specific companies, or is there anything else you want to share that you've seen maybe to spread awareness? The bots were a great thing to raise awareness about.
Yeah, it's mainly about following influencers that are there or that are building organically. If you stay away from hot keywords, hot topics, that's just what's real important about that. It's you have to really spend your time and listen and follow the right people, because you will get led astray. Everyone here is in this to make money. We're in it to make money, okay? But some of us have a soul, and some of us have a conscience, and some of us like going to sleep at night. And there's a lot of people, I would probably say in the crypto space, it's going to be like 90-10. 90% all scam influencer, people trying to take your money, and 10% of real people out there teaching. That's what you got going on here. I've watched a lot of your videos, and following someone like that, it's just really important, because you need to find someone that has real integrity, because you're going to get wrapped up and you're going to get so mad. You're going to lose so much money, get so mad. You're going to miss out on the best wealth change, the best experience. I'm telling you right now, crypto has completely changed my life. So I go on to this, newsletter as a crypto analyst, getting paid, not as much as I did framing, but well enough to I got paid well enough. And I was like, I didn't really was looking at the money. I was looking at the experience.
Yeah.
Because I had money with the crypto.
And I was going to say that somebody had reached out to me over LinkedIn, like asking me about my experience and kind of how I ended up where I ended up. Making connections in the space is the biggest thing. And also because blockchain, crypto, and fintech, like all these things are becoming more regulated and more trusted. And also, not for nothing, but it's just a completely new industry still as well. There's so many opportunities for you to get involved, to learn. If you want to be a blockchain engineer, all like the gateway is open because we're still innovating this whole space. You asked me, oh, do you offer courses? So the whole point of the podcast is I have a business idea outside of this, where basically all my guests that come on the show, eventually I would love for them to become freelancers on the site, where they can host their own classes, news, coaches, attorneys, investment companies that I've talked to already in crypto, and have them host their material on the platform. So like we're a one-stop shop of all resources in crypto.
I would love to do something like that, because those people that do those things too are looking to expand their name and expand their product. And everyone gets a sharing residuals of every course, right? If this course is really popular, there could be rewards for everything, and you could even build a token around it, right? You could
Exactly.
tokenize it.
So one thing that I do want to say too that I really like that you talked about is that you had mentioned, at least you mentioned this on your outline, but you said it's really important to understand what the business is and in their business model, their business product, before maybe you just go and invest in their native token. Because I know so many like crypto businesses, we've seen with FTX, for example, so many crypto businesses just promote their native token, buy our token. But really, are you looking into the business function and what's happening behind the scenes? What is the business model? What are they offering? How are they making money? So
Right.
I think mentioning that was really important too, because that's a big reason why people get scammed is they just, okay, this is the next opportunity. They dump their money into a native token, and then they see that the company is actually inflating their token and that none of this is legit. We've talked about it so many times on the podcast, and I will definitely I'm always looking for more people to join my idea as well. We're starting live interviews in Boston. So I'm hoping that, as I go out to the public and ask people their ideas and stuff, it will help gain attraction to the podcast.
Yeah, so I guess it could talk a little bit on airdrops as well. So when a company, a lot of the projects, it's either you find the token and you're interested about buying the token, so you want to learn more about the company, or there's a blockchain or a company creating a product, and you're interested in, let's say it's an app or it's a game. There's one called Axie Infinity. It's kind of, remember the Tamagotchi figures, or even like Pokemon. It's kind of like a Pokemon game, and people are playing this and people are interacting with this, and there's something called tokenomics. And every project should have a detailed white paper and detailed tokenomics on how many tokens are getting released at this time, what their plan is, how many team tokens there are, is there an infinite supply, is there a total supply? That's all real important. But if you don't want to really invest too much, let's say you just want to invest in Bitcoin, like the big boys, Bitcoin and Ethereum, but you still want to learn about all these different projects, this is how you can make very good money too. Get out there and interact and use these platforms. Go on to CoinMarketCap, go to CoinGecko, click on each coin, and not of that, but listen to the people, if you can find, it's called DeFi Llama. DeFi Llama has a list of all crypto projects that don't have a coin yet, okay? And you go in there and you start interacting with these, using them, playing, doing whatever they tell you to do, or whatever they're selling, you play with it. And when they do launch a project, you're getting free tokens. Now, I had, let's say Uniswap is a decentralized exchange, right? So when you want to go and swap Bitcoin for Ethereum, or Ethereum for this, or you want to buy a token, you go on Coinbase and they have a list of all the tokens that are supported on there. Let's say they have a list of 300 tokens. But you got Bob over here that you like his project and he launched a token, but it's not on Coinbase. How do I find that? Where's it at? That is going to be on the decentralized exchange. Me and you, anyone can launch a token, take some Ethereum, lock it on one of these decentralized exchange for liquidity. You take $1,000 of your coin, $1,000 of Ethereum, you lock it in the decentralized exchange so people can trade it. And there's millions upon millions of tokens on there.
Right,
all you need
right.
is a contract address. You just paste the contract address in the decentralized exchange and you buy any token you want. Right. So when you're buying these tokens from these decentralized exchanges, there's going to be higher risk on there. These centralized exchanges vet a lot of these protocols before they go. So they've been out for a while. So you can feel safer buying these tokens from a centralized exchange more than decentralized. But you want to be early. You want to put in that $100 and turn it into $30,000, right? So, I was messing with Uniswap before they had a token. I was exchanging tokens on Uniswap, and I was doing this with multiple wallets because you don't want to put all your funds into one wallet. What if something happens to this wallet? What if you lose the private keys? What if it gets hacked? What if something happens? You want to have your assets spread. If you have $10,000, have 10 wallets with $1,000 in each wallet. And interact with decentralized applications, interact with crypto in this way. So you're minimizing your risks. And that's what I did. And because I had so many different wallets, when I would get airdrop from these protocols, I would get 10 airdrops. So for Uniswap, I got $8,000 for 10 wallets. For 1inch, I got $4,000 for 10 wallets. For Axie Infinity, for ENS, for PairSwap, I could probably at least 20 or 30, and every single time, the most recent one is Pump Fund, and every single one of them is like $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. They're not small amounts; they're large amounts, and you have multiple wallets. Be very careful what you're hooking up to and what you're doing, but get involved. Don't break some things, because I promise you it's worth it. I have never had a wallet drain. I have never had a hack. I'm sure my identity, I already know my identity is stolen and it's already out there. So I don't really care too much about
Aren't
that.
all of ours, like at this point. So,
but my crypto, there's a lot of hacks going on, a lot of things going on, but I've always been, just using common sense and knowing when you have too much money on a certain wallet, bring it off and put it on your cold wallet. Once I got over 10K on this, MetaMask wallet that's on my computer or on my phone, put it on my USB. I'll show right here, this right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right, put it
Perfect.
on this. Right, this is what I have a box. I have a bunches of them over here. During the Christmas special, I always buy a bunch because they're on sale during Christmas. So have them on these hard wallets and get involved, because you're definitely going to have great results from the risks that you take. And so that rolls into what we were talking about. These companies you have to watch out for. Some of these companies are saying they have a blockchain. Some of these companies saying they have a product. And if you don't understand what a blockchain is, if you don't know how to go on and send a token on a blockchain or mint an NFT on a blockchain, you will never know that this company is lying to you and they don't have a blockchain. right?
Right.
This token just went to $500 million market cap. You just put tens of thousands of dollars into this company, and people have put millions of dollars into this company on the trust that this guy used to work for the president, and he's telling me that this is a blockchain and this is a real product and this is a real blockchain. You never went, you don't know how to make a decentralized wallet. You don't know how to make a crypto wallet. You never went on there and made an NFT. You never went on there and sent a transaction. So how do you know if this is real or not? You're trusting his word, right?
Right. And this is more to say that you should go out into the space, look into courses. I mean, hopefully soon on like after this podcast, we're going to have courses for everybody to learn these different kinds of things and test out things and make mistakes and make
Mm-hmm.
sure you're not doing it on something that you're really reliant on, obviously. But, like
Right.
Daniel's saying, but do your due diligence before you just blindly trust. Especially in this space, it's crucial to not blindly trust. Like, this
Right.
is the
So
place to not.
you'll go to the casino and put $100 on 21 on a blackjack table, right? Like that's not too bad. So why can't you put $100 in a crypto wallet, right? And just go try it out, go do like a blackjack table. Oh, forget it. Instead of going to dinner tonight, honey, I'm gonna put $100 on this crypto wallet and I'm gonna go mess around somewhere. I'm gonna go lose the money. I'm gonna go buy this shitcoin. I'm gonna go loans, borrow some money because you can literally take $100 and take a $50 loan, right? I'm gonna
Right.
go take a $50 loan out. I'm gonna put this $100 of Ethereum as collateral. Take $50 U.S. cash. Take that $50, go spend it on putt-putt golf. So you really use a real world use case. You understand what happened here without permission, and do that with $1 million without permission, without a bank, without a credit check, without a phone number, without an email address. The only thing you have is your collateral, is your Ethereum, is your Bitcoin. And now you're locking up $2 million of your collateral and you're borrowing $1 million cash. Where can you do that? Where can you do that? And there's, I think right now, $60 billion, the platform I'm talking about, Aave,
Mm.
over all the total value locked, there's well over $300 billion in lending and borrowing. But just on like Compound or Aave, there's $100 billion, $60 billion on this platform. You think these guys that are trusting $60 billion care about your $1,000?
No, not at
Get
all.
out there and test it. Get out there and try it.
That's very good tip. That's a very good tip. And you offered a lot of good resources on the podcast too. I'll definitely make sure to highlight those in the podcast description. The wallet that you just recommended that you just held up, I'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely make sure to have that there as well. Is there anything left that you would like to say before we close out the podcast episode? Something that you feel like you didn't mention, or just last pieces of wisdom before we go?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to take control of your own finances. Don't rely on these centralized companies to be your own hedge fund, be your own bank. Blockchain is running in the background. It's a code. You're not trusting men anymore. You're trusting code. You're verifying everything, and you're trusting a network effect, a network of decentralized people come together trusting code to verify everything and not trusting the US government of printing fiat dollars. If you Google right now what's the current lifespan of a fiat dollar, it's 27 years. Okay, we're not trusting that anymore. We're trusting the demand and supply, and all the kinks will get worked out with the transactions and the scalability and all that. We're in the very beginning of all this. So you're still super, 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 super early. It's like, hey, it's 1999. You want to invest in Apple? Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll take a break on that.
And
Then this is much bigger. This is money.
yeah, I was just going to say that find your own spot in the industry. There are so many different directions that you can go in. Outside of that, if you want to do blockchain development, if you want to if you want to learn about smart contract programming, we had somebody on the podcast that teaches about that. There are so many different avenues that you can go down besides just even investing in crypto. The blockchain technology, fintech industry, just do your due diligence and look into these different kinds of like industry sectors before you go and invest. And I think what you said, Daniel, was super insightful too. How can you trust these companies if you're not doing your due diligence to understand how things really truly function in the space? So we're
Mhm.
early. Take your time. A bunch of other guest speakers that I've had on too have said that we are early. It's not too late, because people see Bitcoin at like over 100,000. They're like, oh, it's too late. I missed it. No, this industry is just, I know it's,
But you have to understand, and this is what I try to teach everyone. You have to understand where's that market going, what is its potential. And you need to understand how prices of a token work. Bitcoin's potential is the potential of gold, right? Because it's like a store of value. It's like a digital gold, but it's more digital. So I would say it's even more, has more, because you can transact online. It does more than gold. Gold, if you want to sell at the store, you need to shave it off of a bar with your knife, right? It's not real practical. So it really does more than what gold goes. Remember, we want Bitcoin to be simple and dumb. We want it to be decentralized as possible because we want to store our value there in a safe way. Ethereum, we can be wild and crazy with it, right? We can blow the blockchain block size up. We can try to break things because we want to build a decentralized DeFi, decentralized finance. We want to build a Web3 world, but we want to store our value on Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
I was just going to say, I agree that in time, Ethereum might surpass Bitcoin. And also, not only just Ethereum, but I think Solana also. I just attended a Boston Blockchain Week, and we were there for Solana Saturday. And Nick, I'm going to butcher his last name. I posted about him last week on the podcast, but he's the head of growth for the Solana Foundation. And it was just like very interesting to go to that too, to see all the innovation there and like what they're doing. And I know that Visa and other big companies look into Solana for parallel payment processing and how fast they do payment processing there. And I agree, like also the Web3 interface for gamers and stuff on Ethereum like is coming to life. And I see that so much on TikTok or Twitter.
That couldn't happen on Bitcoin because we're getting the block size. We want to keep it small, right? And I guess the last thing I want to give you is like you said you're going to leave some links below.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you a list of links here. It's at the and when you listen there, I'll go ahead and say right now what each link is, and then you guys can go and explore each link on your own. But I'll just run through them real fast. There's because these are the tools you need to verify everything on the blockchain, to understand if this is a real product or not, and how to interact with these things. And just you have to get on them. It's so fun. So first you have DEX tools. This will allow you to identify these products on, okay, wow, this one guy holds 60% supply over across 10,000 wallets. I don't think I want to buy this token. Because if you really want it, it hurt me, right? DEX tools is like that. And as soon as tokens launch, they're listed on this platform. So you can literally go to live new pairs. Everything on the blockchain's public. So DeFi Prime, another one, the next tool is called DeFi Prime. This is just a overall platform of all the cool apps on blockchain. DeFi Prime is like an encyclopedia. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, here's all the cool things for lending and borrowing. Here's all the cool things for minting NFTs. Check out DeFi Prime. Mess with all the protocols on there. Dex Guru, it's another similar one to Dex Tools. And I'm going to put another one here, DeFi Llama. These places like DeFi Llama, Dex Tools, these ones, they'll have this section where it says potential airdrops. It's what I was talking about earlier about companies that have multi-million-dollar companies that are large and they haven't launched a token yet. They're like a large crypto company. They're doing big things in the crypto space, big name, and they've been out for a year. They've been out for 6 months, but they still don't have a token. And they've been hinting at, because these projects, because of SEC, they can't announce that they're going to launch a token because they'll get in trouble. But they'll hint at it all the time. They'll put memes out, and you have to kind of hear the kind of alpha thing, the things, the undertones they're saying, and you kind of know, okay, they're going to launch a project. They're going to launch a token. And you just interact with them. And there's a whole list of these platforms that are big that haven't launched a token yet. That's what you want to go. Potential airdrops. That's what you want to go and check out. Dune Analytics. This is a very, very important one. DUNE.com. Dune Analytics. This is for querying the blockchain. You got to, especially for guys who are coders out there, you're going to love this site. You can ask the blockchain pretty much anything on this website. Who's got more volume on which? Who's got this? Whatever the question is, you just ask it in a query type way, and it's going to pop up a bunch of forms, a bunch of data, a bunch of stats, a bunch of blockchain data, and this is very, very useful, very important. Etherscan, I don't want to be sacrilegious at all, but Etherscan is like your Bible. You know what I mean? It's the blockchain. It's that when you go on Etherscan, you're seeing instant transactions live going right now. Like if you go on Etherscan right now and I'm sending a transaction, you're going to see it go off on there. And you're seeing millions of dollars going. You can literally watch someone just send like 15 Bitcoin. You click on it and you're like, and you start going down a rabbit hole. Like, who is this guy? Where is he sitting this 15 bit? That's a pretty big player. You follow that wall to that wall. And it's like, if you like exploring like treasure hunt type things, you really love reading the blockchain to kind of get an idea of how transactions are sent, how to read a transaction history. That's very important. And Etherscan, that's also when a token launches a project, that's where their code is going to be listed. So if you want to verify that there's no malicious code in their project, DeFi Llama, I think I said that. And then my favorite dApp out of all of them is Aave. I talked about it earlier about lending and borrowing.
Also, so we on the podcast we've talked about Aave before. So if anybody referenced that podcast that episode as well, I agree with a lot that you said today, and you gave a ton of resources, which I'm really really grateful for because that's why we have the podcast. So and I like that you went into them and explained them for people. So I appreciate that so much. Like I said, I will have all your resources down below. So I wanted to close out the podcast episode and say thank you so much again for coming on. And we'll be in touch after this just to make sure I have all the correct resources for you.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, y'all be safe out there and don't be scared to get out and get involved.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.